Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We are doubly pleased that we could have some folks in person. It's been a long time since we've been able to do something like this. So thanks to the organizers for making this work both in person and to our friends on Zoom. So what you're going to see today is what we're calling an industrial security showcase. And it's some show and tell. It's got some competition. It's got some industry perspective. It'll be a nice introduction for some of you, for me certainly, but it's probably old hat to some of you in the room as well. So we hope to hit you at all levels. My name is John Olson. I work here at Everett Community College. We're pleased to have you here. And we've also got some thank yous for a couple of folks who came somewhat of a long way. Joe Timmons from the governor's office is here. Welcome, Joe. Nice to see you. And we've got Paula from representing Councilmember Megan Dunn, and she's over there with. And I'm sorry I didn't get to meet your daughter. Is that your daughter? Hi, Abel. How are you? She's going to be awed just like the rest of us. I can see it in her eyes. So a lot of things to do today. So we've got another welcome from the president of the college, Dr. Daria Willis. I'd like to invite her up to say a few words, and then we'll kick off the rest of the show. Dr. Willis?
Thank you, John, for that introduction. I must say I'm probably going to have to put this down into the record books for myself because this is the first time in 18 months that I've been able to address a crowd at an event, and it feels amazing. Just to see everyone in person, to see the cameras rolling. This is a huge step in the process of as we continue to fight COVID and keep each other safe. So I just want to first of all thank you all for being here and for supporting this awesome event. And I also want to recognize one of our Board of Trustee members, Bob Bullerjack, who has joined us today. And in addition to any other distinguished guests that I have not had a chance to mention, we certainly do appreciate your time and attention today. I also want to give a huge shout out to Dennis and Ryan Massinelli for the awesome work that they've done to put this event together. And as I understand it, we are the first community college in the nation to be able to have this type of a program. So anytime we have a reason to brag, we will at EvCC, and this gives us major bragging rights. So thank you all for your time and attention. And I see Will Stufflick, former dean of this area. He also helped with this program. Thank you, Will, for showing up. You don't have to anymore, but thank you for coming today. So with that, who am I turning it over to? Back to you, John? All right, thank you all.
I did forget one piece of housekeeping. Coming back is not just something we can do without some thought. We have what's called a Trojan Safety Check-in form, and hopefully all of you were advised of how to do that. But if not, just kind of give me a nod and I'll show you how to log in and do that. And that way, if we do have some information about something that we need to convey to you, we'll know that you were here and where you were, and I think you know what I'm talking about. So we appreciate you doing the Trojan Safety Check-in. That helps us gather information if something does happen. What we've been able to do is pull together a panel, and we couldn't do these sorts of activities or programs without industry support. So we'll have representatives from industry here, and Tim Lovett will be our moderator for that. And I'm not sure if Tim needs an introduction. He's so well known wherever he goes, but please give a nice welcome to Tim Lovett.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate the very kind words, and I'm the guy that's known everywhere, I guess. So, thanks so much for having me here. This is a really important event. It's good to see some faces that I haven't seen for a while and whatnot. But it's a really important event, especially to some recent events that have happened this past year. If you think back a couple of months ago, we had a pretty scary infrastructure attack on a pipeline that shut down a lot of resources, and it ended up costing a company $5 million to kind of bail them out and to get stuff opened back up. And then just yesterday, a large mobile carrier within the area announced a breach of 100 million potential victims with their data. So this is a highly relevant topic, and I'm really excited to engage with some of our industry partners about this, because this is something that we all need to pay more attention to, especially with the recent events, and make some investments to address and combat the issues that we're experiencing across the nation and across the globe. So with that, I'm going to actually do some introductions of our panelists. As I call your name, I didn't get a chance to meet everybody, but as I call your name, please feel free to take a seat up front. First, we have Jennifer Tisdale. So Jennifer Tisdale is the principal of Cyber Physical Systems Security Research Team at GRIMM. Jennifer is a cyber economics strategist, creating cybersecurity strategies for industry, government, and academia in the realm of connected technologies for smart cities, connected vehicles, critical infrastructure, aerospace, control systems, and military platforms. Previously, Jennifer served as a research and development program manager of vehicle product cybersecurity at Mazda North America. There, she bridged the gap between research and development for product development, public relations, government affairs, and focused on cybersecurity for connected and automated vehicles. Before her time at Mazda, Jennifer developed cyber mobility strategies for the state of Michigan. Jennifer's work created the foundation for an economic strategy to band together Michigan's existing automotive, defense, and aerospace industries with non-traditional suppliers in cybersecurity. Through her work, Michigan has carved a unique and leading position as a leader in cyber physical systems economics. And we thank her for bringing her skills and talents to Washington State. Next is Tom VanNorman. So Tom is GRIMM's principal of Industry Control Systems Cybersecurity Program. Tom has an extensive background in industry controls and enjoys the field and making understanding of how things work. Prior to joining GRIMM, Tom held various roles focused on operation, engineering, and security of industry control systems, and has built recognition for developing ICS training programs, workbenches, and the provision of technical consulting services within ICS. Tom began his career in the U.S. Air Force, eventually retiring with a total of 24 years between active duty, reserves, and Air Guard. And he spent the last half of his service serving on a national mission team in Cyber Operations Squadron. In addition to GRIMM, Tom is the co-founder of ICS Village and consultants with SANS on the construction and operation of cyber ranges. The ICS Village is a nonprofit educational organization that equips industry and policymakers to better defend industrial equipment through experiential awareness, education, and training. And Tom, thank you very much for your service. We also have one of Everett Community College's own, Mr. Dennis Skarr. Dennis is tenured faculty at Everett Community College, where he teaches information technology. He has an extensive background in performing security assignments or assessments on a variety of industry control systems. Dennis spent over 10 years performing assessments for the National Guard on critical systems that included building automation systems, electrical utilities, and voting systems. While Dennis was with the National Guard, he created a 2-week training program for cyber operators to receive special qualifications for missions involving cyber physical systems. Dennis also spent 10 years performing assessments for the National Guard on critical systems that included the aforementioned programs. In 2016, Dennis's work at the Guard contributed to the U.S. Security of Defense Ash Carter, visiting his unit for a briefing on their capabilities and achievements. And Dennis, thanks for your service as well. And last but not least, we have Blake Johnson. Blake is a staff engineer at Rockwell's Automation Office of Product Safety and Security. He spent the last 9 years of his career focused on control systems for security for the private sector asset owners ranging from electric power, oil and gas, rail transportation, and retail organizations. The majority of his time has been spent on proactive assessments of security posture and security engineering for a new systems deployment. He has also supported organizations during response to cyber attacks targeting their critical control system assets. At Rockwell, he is focused on securing the products for their customers to use and to integrate controls and information across the enterprise. So we have a very distinguished panel of guests and experts. We really appreciate your time and your expertise in this discussion. So we're going to open it up, and for us lay people in the room, I'd like to ask the panel to maybe discuss what is industrial cybersecurity, or ICS. Higher ed loves our acronym, so I'm probably going to just refer to it as ICS from now on. But what is industrial cybersecurity, and why is it important for us to discuss? And anybody can lead that one.
That's a fun one to start. I think I'd maybe lead into it focused on the second breach that you mentioned of a local telecommunications provider, which is maybe the type of cyber attack and cybersecurity topic that many people are most familiar with. It's the type of attack that ends up with you getting a letter in the mail saying you've got 6 months of free credit monitoring because your social security number has ended up on the dark web. Those attacks are very real, very personal, and very inconvenient at times. Industrial cybersecurity is focused on a very, very different set of outcomes. Those are outcomes that are focused on the ability of businesses to maintain their operations, to deliver for their customers, while they're producing, processing raw materials into finished products, or producing energy and water and other parts of key resources for the country. So in that way, it's much more focused where we would say on integrity, so the ability of a system to survive attempted modification or misuse, as well as availability, keeping systems up and performing their tasks they're meant to perform, rather than more maybe traditional information security that's focused more on confidentiality of data. So as these systems have become more and more connected, that potential for compromise has increased, and we see outcomes more like those you saw with the Colonial Pipeline that you mentioned, or recent attacks on water treatment systems in Oldsmar, Florida, or an attack that was personal to me, an attack on high temperature, high pressure, continuous process where safety systems directly were attempted, sabotaged for a potential kinetic outcome. So yeah, that's my long-winded approach, and I'd be very curious to hear the other panelists' thoughts as well.
So the thing with industrial control systems and security, with control systems, we're looking at health, life, and safety. If the systems get compromised, people can die. You can pollute the environment. You can certainly, injure many people. Historically, systems were not connected as much as they are today to enterprise systems. With attacks such as a Colonial, where we saw just a few months ago where they shut down the pipeline, it wasn't an attack on their control system, it was an attack on their billing system. Well, with the control systems getting more and more integrated, you can't run your process, you can't make your widgets, your process, whatever, if your IT systems are not running. You can't ship things. You don't know where you store put your product in a warehouse. You can't create shipping labels. You can't create billing, things of that nature. So while these systems are run separate, there is a lot of integration to them, so the security has to be thought about and proper technology put in place.
We'll just go down the line, but for me, the biggest focus area for ICS Security is really about the physical impact should a vulnerability or exploitation happen. So what that physical impact might look like will change based on the environment. And to be able to appreciate that you're only as strong as your weakest link, if we're going to be cliche about it, right, is somebody in your supply chain or your IT environment or your OT environment is not looked at holistically from a security perspective, then you're opening up a door for entry for an adversary, for an accident. And so for me, when I look at ICS Security as the non-engineer of the panel, it's really about the physical safety of the people in the environment and the quality and safety of the products being produced, whatever that environment might be making. So that's really how I concern myself with ICS.
A lot of great answers given so far. So I think what I would add to the previous statements is when we look at ICS, in addition to manipulating the integrity of those different environments, you also look at the deniability, and that happened with Colonial as well, where it's just denied access to that resource that we need every day for our way of life. And if you look at denying electricity, for example, that electricity supplies water pumps, that electricity supplies hospitals and emergency management systems. There's other dependencies that these resources provide for us, and they're all interconnected, and that adds to a lot of the complexity of actually kind of securing our environment as a whole. We're very reliant on this equipment, both for our everyday way of life, as well as for military operations. When we were preparing for a potential conflict with North Korea, one of the things my team was tasked with was looking at an airfield. So you don't have to bomb a runway if you can deny fuel from leaving the ground. So there are other ways how our adversaries know they can deny us access to these resources to beat their benefit. And those are other challenges that we actually have in this space. And a lot of those targets are civilian targets that are protecting themselves from military operations overseas. There are 24/7 operations. And that adds to the challenges that defenders have in this space as well.
So each one of you spoke, referred to kind of different threats within ICS. Maybe talk a little bit, maybe each one of you could just pick one, and I know that I'm putting you on the spot with that, but maybe pick one and talk about the specific economic impact that potentially could have on our communities.
Yeah. In a previous life, I did a lot of work with the oil and gas industry, and in that industry, you have very, very tight and just-in-time delivery of raw materials at various stages, from extraction, midstream processing, and ultimately refining. And the economic impacts are potentially huge. And that was one for an incident that I worked on. Economic sabotage was one of the potential motivations that we were exploring for the threat actors behind the attack, because of specific geopolitical climate in the region where the victim was present. It was one of the only refineries with access to a specific body of water that had, one of their neighboring adversary countries had also recently just completed a refinery on. So being able to deny an economics or strategic adversary access to key markets by disabling their ability to produce or deliver product at scale is definitely a very interesting thread to pull, and I think we'll continue to see more as this flavor of warfare and criminality develops over the next couple decades, and that's even setting aside the human safety issues. So.
Yeah, one other way for economic impact is you have a large factory in your town, in your county region. Your manufacturing line gets disrupted, or your shipping, your warehousing gets totally disrupted. What do you do with your people? You got to send them home. You know, there's no forklift drivers, there's no truck drivers, there's nothing coming off the assembly line because all your computers and your other devices got compromised somehow. So that has a direct impact on your economy. It might be short term, might be long term, depending on what happens. You know, another example is we take Ellesmere, Florida, with water. Happened back in the earlier part of this year. You know, you pollute a town's water, or you potentially pollute a town's water supply, and what do? You drink bottled water. You have that bottled water on hand. You have, you know, 100,000 residents. How do you manage? What about the plants that use that water for anywhere from, you know, pharmaceutical or maybe it's just a food and bev, and now they can't operate. So not only did you potentially pollute the water supply, but now people can't go to work.
Answer. So yeah, it's absolutely true, right? Like the cybersecurity impacts can be very negative to our economies and to our communities. It can shut down our utilities, our critical infrastructure, and so I'll let them dwell on the dark side. I want to talk for a minute about the opportunity, and the opportunity of having this type of training and this type of program in Everett, in the state of Washington, because what can actually happen for you is we're going to start to see a switch. Cybersecurity talent is in such high demand that we're seeing a flip from people going to jobs going to people. And that is a very critical statement for your community, because what you'll notice, hopefully over time, as the program grows and develops and more people come through and the talent pipeline gets larger and you re-educate the existing workforce, et cetera, is that you will find industry that will make life convenient for the talent. And that means coming to them. So that bolsters your community, it bolsters your county, your state, it increases your tax base, it provides opportunity for talent to not leave. You do not have brain drain, right? You have business coming to you. And I think that that is really the biggest economic impact. So yes, there are reasons for it, and they are dark. They are serious, they are critical. But to combat that, you must have programs like this program here at Everett grow and flourish and have industry stakeholders. It must be, in my opinion, I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but it must be industry, academia, and government working harmoniously for the success of this program so that you can share this story outside of your region's borders so that industry comes to you. And that would really be, I think, a tremendous opportunity and a positive economic impact for what you're doing here. So congratulations again.
Thank you. And I think I'll kind of dip into a little bit of both those wells that were started here. Is like, yeah, in our program, we're very focused on making sure our students have the skills required to be employable. You know, there are a lot of our students are worker retraining. They're looking for a second career, and they want to make sure that it's not going to go away again. And we take a lot of pride in making sure that they're learning the skills that are going to not land them into their next job, but into a leadership role within their next position. We like to say we want to get you a career, not a job. And in my classes, what we kind of focus on is a little bit of the real world threats. What's real and what's Hollywood? You know, like what's kind of a little bit of crazy reporting and where's the reality? Because when they get into that job role, providing value to their customer, they have to understand and communicate that upward, you know, of like what are they reading on the news, how do they kind of digest that and make themselves valuable. And from a like impact to workforce development, we see that as, you know, shifting the culture within these organizations where all our students go. You know, they're going to know what the real world threats are, and then are also going to know, you know, what are the proper security controls that we need to put in place. Let's be a little bit frugal with those controls and our investments to make sure that we're securing the right devices in the right places, because that's where we actually need to put all of our security. So I think, you know, it's all of that that's going to make a big impact in this area. And we have a lot of extraordinary students that have mature workforce skills, and they're just learning the IT side. So I think this program is going to make a big splash.
So, and I promise we're going to dive more into the program here in a second, Dennis, but each of you have a decade plus of experience within this industry, and you've learned a lot throughout your career and along the way. where have professionals within this industry traditionally, where have they picked up the experience, the knowledge, the education, the training, in order to make themselves successful and to be effective agents in helping in this area?
Backgrounds that I've seen so far in my career draw from a couple main bodies of knowledge within the business. One is typically operations. So within, if it's a manufacturer, within maybe manufacturing operations or maintenance, within the folks who are designing, configuring, and deploying the control systems like you see on the wall, and have been for their careers. As they've become more connected, oftentimes those professionals have added, either at their own motivation or at the request of their employer, some of these IT and cybersecurity skills to enable them to complete projects and integration into the end user environments. The other has been from more traditional IT backgrounds. So folks who might be in a help desk or even server administrator type role, maybe within an organization that has operational technology, might be asked to cross that boundary to help support projects and systems and, again, build that cross-domain expertise. So I would say those are the two main bodies, really, operations and engineering, and then information technology that I've seen so far, that kind of organic pipeline. And I'm really excited to see these more formal educational pipelines emerge, so that people are coming with these skills to the workforce. Yep.
The biggest places I've seen the pipeline come from is on-a-job training from people already working at the company, whether it is in operations and engineering, maybe a little bit of IT. I've personally seen a whole lot of that from the IT side, more from the plant floor engineering technician side. And the U.S. military is where I've seen a lot of the cyber professionals come from. I'm really excited to see this at a community college level, where, hey, now we're going to get, people with actual hands-on experience and exposed to this stuff without having a 6-year degree or a 4-year degree. They can come through and accelerate that pipeline and provide the necessary education tools in a short amount of time.
I would just say there's not a textbook answer here, because there's not a textbook on this topic. And that has been the very first problem as a hiring manager myself that I've been confronted with, is there's not a checklist I can run through on a resume to say, yeah, you meet this qualification, you have this background, right? So what I really look for in a candidate on our team is somebody who has critical thinking capability, somebody who has curiosity, somebody who is passionate, somebody who gets involved with the ICS Village or other hacking villages in the cybersecurity community, where they can experiment safely in a way that won't get them in trouble, and really demonstrate their problem-solving capabilities. I will say, this on behalf of my team. We get involved with several different cybersecurity type challenges. I'll air quote that for you, because that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what that enables us to do and empowers us to do is to really mentor and work with talent directly. And those types of programs are so important for us because there's not an existing degree, not at the community college level yet. You might find a cert here and there. But there's such a lack of cohesion and consistency in the industry and what we're seeing emerge in academia. It's hard to just check a box. So I'm seeing a lot of people that are just passionate and are almost hobbyists in this space, that are playing with things that maybe they are just curious about and they want to understand how it works. And so that's really what I look for on a resume, is to demonstrate for me that you have a curious mind and that you're doing this work somewhere else, because there is such an absence in the academic realm. But again, to put a positive spin on it, what a tremendous opportunity you have before you to be the first in the nation to build a program that can create the talent pipeline that people are so desperately seeking.
I've seen that pipeline kind of develop through the National Guard here in Washington State, where we started off with training small batches of our junior operators in this space, and they were kind of going to school for information technology at the same time, and we'd kind of give them some ICS skills, but it really became the missions that they would do. Like once with the beauty of the Guard is like you get hands-on experience, while you're doing your schooling or working in a similar field. And that really sharpened those skills and took, what were junior personnel into, now they're looking at getting into ICS jobs now that they're emerging here across the states. And they're looking at, they're applying for some prominent teams. And it took that combination of that experience as well as the knowledge to really kind of get them in directly into a leadership role in that space. And I think that was something that the Guard model does extraordinarily well.
So it sounds like the unifying theme throughout each one of your responses is kind of, it's, to use your word, it's been organically grown up until this point. And it sounds like higher education has been maybe trying to address the opportunity and trying to get some more folks qualified and formally trained. However, to go back to Jennifer's point, the textbook doesn't exist yet. Dennis, can you maybe talk through some of the specifics of what Everett's program offers, as well as how it's trying to address that educational kind of lag, so to speak?
Absolutely. So we just didn't want to build a class. A class is great, fantastic start. Like we definitely need to do that, but we wanted to go so much bigger. And I think that's why I'm really happy that we partnered with GRIMM, because you're so good at thinking about the bigger picture. Like, let's do this right, let's push hard. And in addition to, a 5-credit class that's modeled after a lot of the work that we did for our class for the Guard. How do you do an assessment, of this environment? And we kept the technical barriers low because we wanted to encourage students from operational technology, our mechatronics students, possibly aviation, of course our IT, and then business students. Because if all 3 categories of those students get it, as they go into the workforce, they're going to be making business decisions. They're going to be on the floor. They're going to be in the IT infrastructure. And then they know what is important to all 3 of those areas in order to make that work. And that's our start academically. But to kind of get more students interested, we also have workshops that we're going to be hosting for high school as well as college students as well. And now we're, working out these workshops with industry. So with the technology we have a canvas to do whatever we want, depending on what the customers, need. And the workshops will be an additional thing that we can kind of leverage either academically or through continued ed. And, the high school level approach is also going to include a capture the flag competition to generate that interest, get them interested in high school. And then, whether they want to go into programming or they want to work in mechatronics and robotics or the IT or business, they can still get those skill sets there, get interested in those STEM and go to where their passion lies. And I think the capture the flag that was developed is extraordinary. You're going to do that as well. And for our college students, they also have a capture the flag, which is a little bit more challenging, but also has a whole control system, cyber to physical feel to it. It's not just limited to the traditional cybersecurity elements. It's interacting with these industrial devices over here, and even touches on other topics like lockpicking, which is really, really fun challenge. Like lockpicking, every time you go to like a security conference, everyone's walking around to like the fidget spinners of hackers. Everyone's got their little lockpickers. They're at all the conferences. So they're, so it's a really, really great challenge. And, at a college level, we really want to inspire those students like, this is a career I could go into. This is something I want to do. I can do this. And having access to this technology and fusing that to our program is going to generate interest. It's going to, satisfy curiosity, and it's going to drive passion. And that's why we wanted a whole program and not just a 5-credit class. Like, this is going to be the fabric of who we are moving forward.
So this next question's not for you, Dennis. I promise there's another one coming your way. But for our industry partners, what kind of competitive edge would an applicant maybe have if they were to go through a formal training program, as opposed to maybe being organically grown?
I think there's a huge advantage for people just entering the workforce, especially. When I think about the first position that I had in industrial cybersecurity, it really relied on someone being willing to take a chance on me. And I think that willingness was based, at least in part, on a tremendous amount of privilege that I enjoy in my background. And the fact that I looked, sound, spoke like the person in that position before and the person hiring me. And so when I think about people coming into the workforce, maybe don't have the benefit of that privilege, having this more formal experience, whether it's a full-on maybe credential at some point, degree, certificate, or even just being able to point at this course and this coursework and say, I have this specific hands-on experience, helps reduce that perceived risk of bringing that person on and hopefully open some doors.
The advantage that they have after going through and utilizing all these trainers and everything is they've been exposed to all these devices that are commonly found in every industry, from embedded devices to operating systems, and they can see firsthand the cyber-physical effect, what happens when an attack happens, or you defend it, or just even a misconfiguration, what the impact is on it. So the ability to just be able to touch, feel, program, attack, this does give them a very large advantage compared to your typical textbook experience, or coming from a live operational environment where you can't go and attack those different systems because it's a running network. It's a live system.
Tell that Tom and I worked together in my answer because he had a perfect answer. It is really about not just the theory of security that they will learn in the class, but the practicality and the physical application to the hands-on elements of the training. I mean, I think we all have had experiences in our life where we learn more from the failure than we did from the reading. And this gives them the ability to see real-world product in a near real-world environment, doing real-world things as a result of their actions, their code, their whatever. And so to be able to experience what works and what doesn't, I think is irreplaceable for a competitive edge. The very next step I'd like to see is going from this into an internship program where they can actually be in a real operating environment and to be able to get those real life experiences. But this is such a tremendous advantage to be hands-on. Absolutely.
So Blake, you actually brought it up. I think one of the elephants in the room, regionally, locally, nationally, is that there's a certain lack of diversity within the industry, right? And I think it is I know it is at Everett's core mission to address equity and social justice within the various pathways that our college serves. So Dennis, can you talk a little bit about how we address diversity, equity, and inclusion with the program?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we've been looking at with this technology. Like, how do we introduce this to our broader community? And Ryan and I immediately thought of the Tulalip tribe and reaching out to them first, where we wanted to actually have those students have access to this technology in one of the workshops first. Like, having taught out there really kind of changed who I am as an instructor. And I truly value the relationships that I've developed with those students over the years. And that was kind of step one, and we're reaching out there. But even Delan, he's one of my students, in my IT 110. He heard what we're doing, and he immediately got me hooked up with the D&E community here, and they're helping us in our outreach efforts out there. We don't have anything formal right now, but we wanted to let the communities know that, like, we're we're building something special, and we want to know that, you know, you're coming in, you know, you're part of this. We want to actually get those pipelines built fast and get them built strong and develop those relationships. So as our program grows up, we have those connections out across the different communities here in Everett, and that's been important to us as we roll this out, is, you know, we're reaching out to those groups first.
Awesome. So I think that's it for the panel discussion. So please join me in a round of applause for our folks. Now I know, and again, I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot, but I know there's so many questions out here in the audience. We also have a module in the back, a training device and whatnot. Maybe Dennis or panelists, if you're open to questions, maybe if you guys could hang out and allow our audience to discuss. You know, we want to be respectful of people's times and whatnot, but I'm sure this has been a great discussion, and I'm sure people are going to have questions for you all. So thank you so much again for coming out, and thank you all for participating in this. This is a very high pressure, high stakes pathway industry for our country. And I love Jennifer trying to reframe it as, you know, every challenge is also an opportunity. And I think, you know, just with the expertise and with our program, we are viewing it as an opportunity for this community to be leaders regionally and nationally. So thanks so much for your time and coming out. It's good to see people.
And I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Jaime Lightfoot from GRIMM and the extraordinary work that she did in the Capture the Flag competition. Over here we have some amazing trainers that, you know, just by looking at them, you're like, wow, those are great. But there's a whole lot of work done in the Capture the Flag competitions that aren't really captured in all the cool gear. So I wanted to hand it over to Jaime and have her explain a little bit more of the work that she did and what made her really kind of passionate about the work that she did for this competition. So Jaime.
Cool, thank you. So like Dennis said, we're gonna have a demo in just a minute, but he told me since you guys are all educators that I needed to do a pop quiz. So how many of you played Capture the Flag as a kid? Anyone? All right, so who knows what Capture the Flag is in a cybersecurity context? Got a couple? Okay. So since this is, equipment for the college, but also the basis for our CTF, I thought it'd be important to explain CTFs and then also why I love doing them. So a CTF in the hacking world is an environment that is set up specifically to be hacked. So there's no legal concerns like Jen pointed out. We have websites or equipment or servers or something that's set up not only that people are allowed to hack, but we encourage them to hack it because we're trying to teach them some kind of concept. So the same thing as within the educational world, when you're trying to teach students something through a CTF, you have to design each challenge in a specific way where you're trying to teach one topic, so you have to think about the scope of the challenge, you have to kind of nudge them along, but still make it challenging. And then the flag part, if you're wondering how the flag works in a computer environment, it's a file or a special piece of text that you turn in and you get points. Whoever gets the most points wins. Usually you don't win anything, just bragging rights, but still good motivation. So it's essentially gamified learning. As an aside, you might be asking why we're teaching students to hack things. I don't know if you had any discussions with your legal department about that, but the idea is that defense and offense are two sides of the same coin. So as you're learning how to attack things, you learn where the vulnerabilities are, the consequences of leaving things vulnerable. And while it's kind of hard to put defense into a CTF event, we did do that a little bit with this CTF. So the reason that CTFs are near and dear to my heart is they are the reason that I have a job at GRIMM, essentially. I used to work as an electrical engineer and a computer programmer. I tried a CTF, not really on purpose. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was instantly hooked. I didn't know anything about security. I flailed the entire way through the event, but I still had a great time. And I spent pretty much every weekend after that doing hacking events with the friends that I had met at this CTF. And from that, I developed a whole bunch of hands-on skills. I was able to demonstrate curiosity and initiative to the employers that I was interviewing with after a while. It helped me develop skills that I could turn into certifications. And now I have a job at GRIMM where I get to be on the other side of things, making these CTFs and learning events for other people. So how this relates to all of this equipment and to Everett Community College, we have an industrial control system CTF that we designed especially for your college. It has challenges based around all different aspects of ICS. So we have programming, we have foundational skills in Modbus and other protocols that are going to be used. We have kind of monitoring and web services that can be hackable, that actually a lot of them are based on current events or recent events, I should say, that were used to hack into ICS systems. We have physical security, so that's kind of a nice term for lockpicking, but also RFID badge readers. We have hands-on industrial equipment, and a whole bunch of other things that I will probably remember after my time to speak is up. So each piece of equipment here not only works as a standalone thing that Dennis can work into the curriculum through the whole semester, but also as a standalone capstone event. So once they get through the Everett program, they can show that they've learned all of these skills and that they can apply them in this fun, gamified way. And it also brings attention to Everett. You can have press here, you can invite other colleges, and then we have the high school CTF that will help Everett develop a pipeline, get more groups in the community involved. I helped design all of it, or most of it, I should say. I love talking about CTFs. I love playing CTFs. But I especially love talking about this one because it is Jurassic Park themed. Dennis let me pick any theme I wanted, so of course I picked dinosaurs. So I'm happy to talk tech details with anyone afterwards, or if that's not your thing, I also have dinosaur stickers. And with that, I will hand it back over to Dennis.
Awesome. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Jaime. So moving right along, we have 3 giant walls here, and it's starting to get a little bit of a competition on what this thing's going to be nicknamed. The wall or the Gibson, as those of you familiar with hacker lore, I feel like that's kind of the sticking power right now. Well, what makes them really unique is this is not like a replica of an industrial environment. This is an industrial environment. Here we have the monitoring side where the operator would actually interact with the control side element of it. And there's a diversity of products in here to ensure that we have a lot of different technologies in place so that, as we want to recreate different scenarios that may come up in the news, like when the Oldemar water treatment facility kind of incident happened, we were able to recreate what happened and then what could have really happened if the adversary wanted to do a deeper level of impact. And we were able to do that within 2 days. And that was like an extraordinary turnaround to actually have this type of technology here. And then this is a full water system here, which we'll kind of demo a quick how it's used, as well as a quick exploit here in a minute. But moving along, this is definitely only one like this. Here, there's been some of these walls that Tom has perfected over the years. And this one is a building automation system with Industry 4.0 equipment, so the newest generation of PLC, so future ready. And this is more for an expansion of what we want to grow into and provide new technologies to explore and love. And then this side is definitely specific for the capture the flag competition with its own kind of little secret in here. Like if you are going to take a raptor egg, there might be something that you need to be aware of if you're going to try and walk away from that without a surprise. So we'll kind of get to that here in a second. And I think for our demo here, what we can do is a little bit of just theory of operation of how the water side works. Is here is your human-machine interface, referred to as an HMI. And this is really going to interact with the water tank right here. And this is the intent of the system. This is what it's capable of. And from an adversary standpoint, this can do a lot more than what the operator may want to do safely. You know, and that's another thing that we really kind of wrap up in this class, is there's so much more capability of what can be done here. This is to keep an operator safe and making sure that they're not breaking things or getting people hurt. So enabling it is just as simple as moving a set point, a little slider, I move it up and down. It sends a signal over to the control side, and it's like, I am filling a tank with water. Nothing very extraordinary to it. This technology, whether this is the grid, manufacturing, aerospace, all of this stuff is the same and interchangeable. The only difference that we would see is this is water, just a tank of water. But what Tom can do is we got two different types of scripts here, real simple scripts. So what's the first one? Let's force it. Here we go. So I'm going to take it down into a state where it's ready to receive a command, but I have the set point at 0. What Tom did is through the network, he's sending these devices the exact same command that I just sent it from this machine. And it's filling everything up. Now for me, from the operation standpoint, I'm like, whoa, this is at 0. Why is it filling? But I can still see on my tank that it's filling. And if I want to regain control and move it down, you'll hear it receive my command, but it's immediately overwritten by this network attack that's sending nonstop fill commands. And in this environment, we're right here. You know, I can see that this isn't working as advertised. But, you know, think of water, like our water treatment system. This is going to be up in a pump house that could be 100 miles away from any sort of visibility into the application. If someone was doing that in that environment, would you know? And that's where you kind of have to understand, that's where we kind of get into the class, is like you may not have the luxury of seeing this right here. The other attack, which is really interesting, let's turn the water on. So now I want to fill the tank because that's what I want to do. I want to put water into the system. Is it working? And now it's disabled. And this is attack against this device right here. And if you saw it, it actually blinked and it errored out. So one of the really cool things about this equipment, and that you don't get out of a software simulation, is this put it into an error state and shut it down. So it doesn't even know how to turn back. It can't do it on its own through automation. As an operator, now I have to troubleshoot this and figure out why it's not actually up and running. And when we first started duplicating this is something I had to figure out. I'm like, why isn't this working? Like, this is really strange. It's just supposed to actually tell it 0. So I turn it back on and I say, turn this device back on. It goes to a reset. And then it'll power up and then, right back down. So it's turned off right again. And I don't know why. You know, as an operator, why can't I get this back online? I don't have network visibility into this environment right now. So is this an ICS problem? Is this, you know, some sort of weird fault? Let me get the vendor on the phone. And those are the different environments that our students are actually going to be taking part in. And whether they're coming from the information technology side or the manufacturing or even the business, that's value added because you understand that these type of attacks, you know, can be confusing. How do you troubleshoot it? Is it a broken device? Is something wrong there? Or is this, you know, is there something deeper going on? And that's where the security skills would really kind of have to be flushed out, because now you're actually kind of have to do some sort of response to figure out what's going on at a network level. And that's kind of just a glimmer of what we can do with this technology. We've just had access to it now for really 3-4 months. And our first students that went through our assessing and securing control systems class in spring loved it, and 2 of them actually shared their experience at the DEFCON security conference this year, which was absolutely amazing. So, you know, there's a lot of excitement within our students. There's a lot of excitement with our industry partners. There's energy up and down I-5 with the potential of all of this equipment, and we couldn't be any more thankful for the investment that the state of Washington gave us and the amazing work that GRIMM did here to actually make this happen. And just thank you all for coming out and hearing what we're doing. And you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot more of what we're doing in this space in the future. Thank you. So if you want to stick around, we do have, you know, people here to talk about different elements of things. You know, we're here to the end. So feel free to kind of linger, ask questions, and hang out. Thank you. Oh, the egg. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, the egg. Sorry about the egg. Okay. So, all right. Do we want to volunteer? Someone want to come over here and try and get the raptor egg? So do you want to explain this part of the CTF?
So this demo is a little bit shortcutted so that we could show it to you in just a few minutes. This is a physical security challenge where you would use a key card to get into a whatever facility. This part of the challenge actually leads students through the protocol that is used to store information and keys on these key cards. We give them a key card to start out with, and then they have to clone it and modify it so that they can get into the raptor egg cage that is part of this dinosaur storyline. So we're showing you just the end result. Not going to make you learn the whole protocol now, of course, but yeah, the special effects are great on this part. So is Hazel up for doing another? It's already set. You just have to open the door. Yeah. Over there. RFID. Here you go. This one. Oh, right here. Go, badge in. So for this CTF, if they are able to go, or this CTF challenge, if they are able to go through all of the steps, figure out the protocol, figure out how to modify the code on the key to get themselves into the raptor egg cage that they aren't supposed to be into in the storyline, then they're able to open up the door, have a cool moment for the press or whoever is there, and then inside the egg there is a piece of paper with some text on it. They turn that in and then they get points. So.
That's gamified learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Here you go, Dennis.
And we do have a question from the Zoom audience about the competition in May. So it's going to be an event where the high school and college students are both coming on campus at the same time to compete in the Dino Adventures and the Raptor Island competition at the same time. So it's going to be a 3-day event. I believe it's the 3rd week of May. And right now we're looking at trying to get as many students in as we can fit into our gym, depending on, restrictions for in-seat at that time. So it's kind of to be determined. But when it comes to how many do we want, we're shooting for as many as we can. So with that, we have 16 of these trainers, as well the advanced trainers and a handful of other ones. So we're looking at 4 or 5 teams at the very least can kind of come in and take part in that. So just kind of stay tuned. We do have Spear at everettcc.edu. So if you email that email address, we'll actually kind of put you on our list and keep you engaged on how your students can attend one of our workshops to learn about ICS. You learn security on your homeschool team, you come to us for ICS, we'll kind of hook you up there. And then we'll let you know when we're actually formalizing the plan for the competitions.